Do you know what betrayal feels like, my dears? It isn't the sharp stab of a knife. No, it's slower, colder. It seeps into your bones when you realize the people you nurtured with love, the ones you trusted with your life, have been waiting for your downfall. It's the silence in the halls of your own house, when you know whispers are being exchanged behind doors. Listen closely now, because this story is not just mine, it's a warning. And if you're still here, my sweet ones, don't forget to subscribe. You must hear every part of what happened in my English house. When my very own daughter-in-law tried to erase my existence by burning my will, she thought she was clever. She didn't know about the copy I hid. The air that evening was damp, filled with the smell of rain seeping through the old bricks of this house. I had been living here for nearly 50 years. Every corner carrying the memory of my late husband Arthur and the laughter of my children when they were young. I had grown frail, my legs stiff, my breath often shallow, but my mind was sharper than anyone ever suspected. You see, when you grow old, people start assuming you're blind to their schemes. They think wrinkles mean weakness. They forget that age is not only years, it's experience, patience, and the ability to smell danger long before it knocks on the door. That evening, I was sitting in my armchair by the fireplace, wrapped in my knitted shawl, when I heard the faintest rustle. The house was quiet, too quiet. My son was away on business, as usual, leaving me alone with her. My daughter-in-law, Eleanor. She was beautiful on the outside, yes, with her polished smile and those graceful steps. But inside, oh my dears, her heart was made of ice, her veins filled with greed. I had felt it from the first day she stepped into this house. She didn't look at me like family. She looked at me like an obstacle. I heard her footsteps down the corridor, softer than usual, careful. My heart slowed, then quickened. I leaned forward, pretending to doze, my eyes half closed. Through the reflection in the glass of the cabinet opposite me, I saw her, creeping towards the study, my Arthur's study, the one room I still kept locked most days. But earlier I had forgotten. Foolish of me, wasn't it? Or perhaps fate. Fate wanted me to see the truth with my own eyes. I didn't move, not yet. My breath was shallow as I watched her slip inside the study. Moments later, the faint scratch of matches reached my ears. My dears, my heart nearly stopped. I forced myself to stand, my old bones aching. But I moved with a strength I didn't know I still had. When I reached the doorway, the smell of burning paper wrapped around me like a serpent. There she was, crouched by the hearth, her face lit by the dancing flames, and in her trembling hand, a stack of parchment. My will, the very document I had written so carefully, leaving this house not to her greedy hands, but to my granddaughter, little Emily, sweet Emily, who loved me not for what I owned, but for who I was. Eleanor, I rasped, my voice shaking, not from weakness but fury. She jumped, her eyes wide like a thief caught red-handed. The flames licked higher, devouring the edges of the paper. I stumbled forward, but she shoved the last sheet into the fire before I could reach her. She straightened, composed herself in a second, and gave me that smile. That terrible, poisonous smile. "Oh, Mother," she said sweetly, as though nothing had happened. "These were just old papers, clutter. You shouldn't be keeping such things around. They're a fire hazard. A fire hazard. Can you imagine? My life's decisions, my final wishes, the justice I wanted for Emily, dismissed as clutter." I clutched the arm of the chair for balance, my fury threatening to consume me, but I held it in. I couldn't let her see all my cards. "You wicked girl," I whispered, my voice low. "Do you think I don't know what you've done?" She tilted her head, all innocence. "Done? Oh, Mother, you must be tired. You imagine things." But her eyes betrayed her. They glittered with victory. She thought she had won. What she didn't know, my dears, is that long before tonight, I had prepared. I had seen the hunger in her gaze each time she lingered on the deeds, the jewelry, the family heirlooms. I had known deep inside that one day she would try to take everything from me. And so, I had made a second will, a true will, sealed, hidden, untouched by her filthy hands. I didn't speak of it. Not yet. I let her bask in her false triumph. Sometimes, silence is more powerful than words. She turned away, humming softly, and left the room as though she had merely tidied it. I remained by the hearth, watching the ashes flutter into nothingness. And yet, my lips curved into the faintest smile, for she had only destroyed the shadow, never the substance. Oh, my sweet ones, if you're still listening, if you feel the anger in your bones as I did, then promise me something. Like this story, share it with others, because too many of us grandmothers are underestimated, and our voices go unheard. Let them hear mine. That night, as I lay in bed, the rain tapping against the window panes, I felt a storm brewing. Not outside, but within the walls of this very house. Eleanor thought she had secured her future, but she had only awakened a sleeping lioness, and I was ready for battle. That night, I did not sleep, my dears. My body lay in bed, yes, but my spirit wandered these halls like a restless shadow. Every creak of the old oak floors, every brush of wind through the chimney, whispered of treachery. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the cracks in the plaster, as though they were maps of the betrayals I had lived through. But none cut as deep as this. To watch my own daughter-in-law, the woman who should have been my caretaker, destroy my final wishes with her own hands. Yet I did not weep. No, I have cried enough in this lifetime. When Arthur died, I cried. When my son grew distant, his heart tethered more to his wife than to his mother, I cried. But tonight there were no tears left in me, only resolve. You see, my sweet ones, sometimes age makes us appear fragile, but within us lives the quiet fire of every wound we have endured. And tonight, that fire burned stronger than any match Eleanor struck. I waited until I heard her footsteps retreat upstairs. Light but hurried. She must have thought me broken, shattered by the sight of my will in flames. That thought likely lulled her to sleep. But I rose from my bed. I wrapped my shawl around my shoulders, lit the small candle I kept by my nightstand, and shuffled down the hall to the cellar door. Ah, the cellar, a place no one but me dared to enter. Damp stone walls, the smell of earth and time, and rows of boxes filled with the fragments of a life lived long. Photographs, Arthur's war medals, the silver set my grandmother once used on Christmas mornings, and hidden amongst those relics, tucked in an old biscuit tin, sealed tight and untouched, lay my secret, my true will. I knelt there, my knees aching against the cold floor, and held the tin in my hands. I could almost hear Arthur's voice then, low and steady, as though he were guiding me still. Be clever, Margaret. Never let them see the whole of your hand. And oh, how right he was. Inside that tin was not just the will. There were letters too, proof of Eleanor's cruelty over the years. Notes she thought I had forgotten, receipts she thought I would never notice, and even a recording. Yes, a recording I had made one evening when she thought I was asleep. Her voice, dripping with venom, speaking to her friend on the telephone. The old woman will be gone soon, and then the house is mine. Mine. Can you imagine the arrogance, the certainty? It chilled me, yet it armed me as well. I closed the tin and pressed it to my chest. This was my weapon, my safeguard. She had destroyed the paper in the study, yes, but she had not destroyed my truth. And truth, my dears, has a way of clawing its way to light, no matter how deep one tries to bury it. I returned to my room, hid the tin once more in a place only I knew, and finally allowed my body to rest. My mind, however, remained sharp, turning over questions like stones. How far would she go? Would she try again? Would she dare to poison me, perhaps, or push me down the stairs? I had seen the darkness in her eyes. It was not satisfied with ashes alone. The days that followed were a strange theatre. Eleanor behaved as though nothing had happened. She brought me tea in the mornings, smiling that sugary smile. She asked if I needed help with my knitting, with the garden, even with the simplest of chores. But every time her hand brushed against mine, I felt the chill of her deceit. I answered her politely, but my eyes never left hers. She could not fool me, not anymore. One afternoon, I caught her lingering by the study again. She had a key now, perhaps one she had made in secret. I watched her from the stairwell as she rifled through drawers that no longer held the will she had burned. She was searching for confirmation, for assurance that she had truly erased my wishes. But what she found instead was emptiness, and that emptiness drove her mad. That evening at dinner, she was restless. Her fork clinked against the china, her eyes darting toward me, then away. Finally she spoke. "Mother," she said softly, too softly. I was thinking, perhaps we should discuss the future of the house. After all, nothing is permanent. It would be wise to prepare. Prepare. Such an innocent word, but I heard the hunger beneath it. I set my fork down gently and folded my hands. "The future of this house," I said, my voice steady, "is already prepared, Eleanor." Her lips twitched, her face stiffened, but she tried to mask it with another smile. "Of course," she murmured, but I saw the fear flash in her eyes. She wondered if I knew. She wondered if she had truly erased me. My dears, it is moments like these when silence becomes a blade sharper than any sword. I did not elaborate. I let her stew in the uncertainty, and that uncertainty would eat at her like a worm in an apple. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought of you. Yes, you, my sweet listeners. If you are still with me, then bless you, for you are the only ones who know the truth now. And if you are listening this far, please subscribe. Stay close, because what came next? Oh, it shook even the foundations of this house. For the following week, I noticed strange things. My medicines, for instance. The bottles I kept by my bedside. One morning, I found the capsules slightly different. The color, the shape, the smell. My doctor had not prescribed anything new, so why the change? I knew then. Eleanor was no longer satisfied with ashes. She wanted to erase me entirely. I did not panic. Instead, I pretended. I took the capsules in front of her, let her believe her plan was working. But when she turned her back, I slipped them under my tongue and spat them into the waste bin later. Each day, I grew weaker in her eyes, my steps slower, my voice fainter. And the more fragile I appeared, the bolder she became, until one night. But no, my dears, that part of the story deserves its own breath, its own silence before I speak it, because that night was when Eleanor revealed just how far she was willing to go. And that, my sweet ones, is where the battle truly began. And if you want to hear it, if you want to know the darkness that unfolded in this English house, then stay with me. Comment below what you would have done. Share this story with someone who must hear it. And never forget, behind every wrinkled face may lie secrets deeper than fire can burn. Do you know what it feels like to pretend you are weaker than you truly are, my dears? To walk slowly, to cough deliberately, to let your hands tremble when in truth your grip is steady as ever. It is an art, a dangerous one, but an art nonetheless. And for days, I played that role. I let Eleanor believe her poison was working. I let her see me stagger as I walked, let her hear me wheeze as I climbed the stairs. And with every moment, her confidence grew. But behind my soft eyes, I was watching, always watching. One evening, I caught her in the kitchen. She was standing by the medicine cabinet, her back to me, her hands busy with something small and precise. I coughed gently, making her jump. Oh, how quickly she spun around, hiding her hands behind her back like a guilty child. "Mother," she said with that false sweetness. You startled me. You should be resting. I leaned against the door frame, letting my shoulders sag, as though they barely held me up. I was thirsty, I whispered. Just wanted a glass of water. Her eyes flicked to the sink, to the glass already waiting there. Too quick, too ready. She rushed forward, filled it, and pressed it into my hands. I lifted it to my lips, but only let the water touch them before setting it aside. Thank you, Eleanor, I said softly, and her smile widened. That night, I poured the water into the potted plant by my bed. By morning, the leaves had curled, the edges blackened as though scorched by invisible flames. Poison. Without a doubt. Do you feel the chill, my dears? If you do, then stay with me. And if you've listened this far, subscribe, because what I am about to tell you is the part most people would not believe. You see, I had no intention of confronting her directly. That would only push her deeper into her lies. No, I needed proof. I needed her to reveal herself, not just to me, but to the world. And for that, I set a trap. It began with small things. I left my diary open on the table, pages filled with trembling words. I feel weaker each day. Perhaps I will not last the winter. If only Eleanor will take care of Emily when I am gone. I let her read it, pretending I had forgotten to put it away. Her eyes devoured those words like a starving animal, and she smiled when she thought I wasn't looking. Then I planted seeds of my own. One afternoon, while she dusted the study, I said in my frailest voice, I must speak with my lawyer soon. It is important that all is in order before my time comes. Her hand froze on the desk. Your lawyer? She asked quickly. Yes, I murmured. There are things that must be secured. I saw her jaw tighten, her knuckles whiten on the duster. That night, I heard her pacing in her room, back and forth, like a caged beast. The following day, she changed her tactics. She brought me soup, rich, fragrant, too fragrant. She urged me to eat, watching every spoonful. I took tiny sips, then pushed it aside, claiming my stomach hurt. She hid her disappointment poorly, but I, my dears, had already begun preparing my counterattack. Remember the tin in the cellar. Inside, along with my will and the letters, I had placed a small recording device, a modern gift from Emily, who always said, Granny, you should keep up with technology. It will protect you one day. How right she was. I placed that little device under my bed, where it could capture every sound in my room. And that very night, as the house fell silent, I pretended to sleep, my breath slow, my body still. Then, past midnight, I heard it. The creak of my door opening, soft footsteps, the faint clink of glass, a hand brushing against the nightstand, and then her whisper, just a little more. Soon it will all be mine. My heart pounded, but I did not move. She poured something into the glass of water by my bed, set it down, and tiptoed away. The recorder caught every sound, every word. Proof, undeniable proof. When she left, I sat up, my hands trembling, not with fear, but with triumph. Oh, how foolish she was to underestimate me. The next morning, I acted weaker still. I let her fuss over me, let her tuck a blanket around my shoulders, as though she were the devoted daughter-in-law. But inside, I smiled, because now the game had truly begun. And yet, even with proof in my hands, I hesitated. Why, you ask? Because my son, my foolish blind son, loved her. He would never believe me without something more. I needed Eleanor to expose herself, not just in whispers, not in shadows, but in a blaze of her own arrogance. And for that, I had to be patient. One evening, I sat by the fire and called Emily on the telephone. Eleanor was in the kitchen, but I knew she was listening. I spoke loudly, letting my words carry through the hall. My darling Emily, I said, I must see you soon. There are papers, important papers, I need you to hold for me, in case anything should happen. I could almost hear Eleanor freeze in place. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. Emily, sweet as always, promised she would visit. I smiled, thanked her, and hung up. And then I waited, because I knew Eleanor. I knew that greed, once awakened, cannot be lulled back to sleep. She would not let Emily near those papers. She would act, and when she did, I would be ready. And oh, my dears, how right I was. But that is a story for the next breath of this tale. And if you want to hear how Eleanor revealed her darkest side, if you want to know the moment she thought she had finally won, only to fall into the snare of her own making, then stay close, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Because the night Emily arrived, the house itself seemed to hold its breath. The night Emily was due to arrive, the air in the house was heavier than ever, my dears. It felt as though the very walls knew what was coming. As if the house itself, this old English house that had seen births, deaths, love, betrayal, was holding its breath, waiting for the storm. I sat in my armchair, the firelight flickering across my wrinkled hands, knitting in my lap though my fingers barely moved. My ears were sharp, sharper than Eleanor thought, and I heard every restless step she took upstairs. She was pacing again, back and forth, her heels clacking against the wooden floors. Like a spider sensing a fly too close to its web, she was unsettled. The mention of Emily, of papers, had rattled her more than I imagined. She didn't want my granddaughter here. Oh no, she wanted her as far away as possible, because Emily, unlike my son, had eyes that saw through masks. She loved me too deeply to be fooled by Eleanor's poisoned sweetness. At last, I heard Eleanor descend the stairs. She carried herself with that fake calm of hers, her silk dressing gown tied neatly, her smile painted on as if nothing were amiss. "Mother," she said lightly, "I hear Emily is visiting tomorrow." What a surprise! I looked up slowly as though my mind were foggy. "Yes," I whispered, "just for tea. A little visit." Her eyes flickered, though she kept her lips curved. "Of course," she said. "It will be lovely to see her." But I saw her hands. She wrung them together behind her back, and her knuckles were white. Later that night, when I retired to bed, I lay awake listening again, and there it was, the faint creak of the telephone in the hallway. Eleanor whispering into the receiver, "She's bringing Emily here. I can't let her get the papers." Yes, I'll handle it. I'll handle everything. Oh, my dears." I smiled in the darkness, for every word she spoke, every whisper she thought lost to the night, was captured by the recorder I had hidden under the table. Proof upon proof. She was building her own gallows, and I was simply watching as she tightened the rope. The next morning, the house was bathed in pale grey light. Rain tapped gently on the windows, and the sky hung low with clouds. I rose early, moving slowly, deliberately, my shawl wrapped tight around me. I wanted Eleanor to think me feebler than ever. She served me tea, her eyes sharp as knives, though her smile was soft. "Mother," she said sweetly, "are you sure you're well enough for visitors today? Perhaps you should rest instead. Emily wouldn't want to see you so tired." I sipped the tea, letting it touch my lips before setting it aside. "No," I said, my voice firm though faint. "Emily is family. Family must come together while we still can." Her smile faltered, just a flicker, but I saw it. The clock struck 3, and soon enough, the sound of wheels on gravel reached us. Emily's little car pulled into the driveway, and oh, my heart swelled. My granddaughter stepped out, her coat pulled tight against the drizzle, her eyes bright as always. She looked just like her mother once had. My sweet daughter, who had left this world too soon. Emily ran up the steps, her footsteps quick and eager. "Granny!" she cried, wrapping her arms around me as soon as she entered. Her embrace was warm, filled with genuine love, the kind Eleanor could never fake. "Oh, my darling," I whispered, clutching her tightly. "How I've missed you." Behind us, Eleanor stood stiff, her smile stretched thin. "Emily," she said smoothly. "What a surprise. You didn't tell us you were coming." "I did," Emily replied, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Granny called me." I could feel the tension sparking between them like flint. Eleanor gestured toward the sitting room. "Come, have tea," she said. Her tone a touch too bright. We settled in, the three of us. The fire crackled, the rain pattered, and the air between Eleanor and Emily was taut as a drawn bow. Eleanor poured tea, her hands steady, her voice calm. But her eyes? They never left Emily. She watched every move, every glance, as though waiting for her to slip, to reveal something. "So, Emily," Eleanor said, "how are your studies? Still at the university?" "Yes," Emily replied coolly. "Almost finished, and then I'll be spending more time here." "With Granny," Eleanor's smile tightened. How lovely. I sat quietly, letting the silence stretch. I wanted them both to feel it, the weight of what was unsaid. And then I leaned forward, my voice soft but deliberate. "Emily, my darling, after tea, would you help me fetch something from the cellar? An old tin of mine. Very important." Eleanor froze. The teacup rattled in her saucer. "The cellar?" she repeated quickly. "Yes," I said, meeting her gaze. The cellar. Her eyes burned into mine, full of fury she could not speak aloud. Emily glanced between us, confusion flickering on her face, but she nodded. "Of course, Granny. Anything you need." The rest of tea passed in uneasy silence. Eleanor forced small talk. Emily answered politely, and I watched the storm build in the corners of the room. When at last we rose, Eleanor insisted on helping with the dishes. Her smile painted thick across her face, but as Emily and I headed toward the cellar door, I saw her hand twitch. She wanted to stop us. She wanted to scream. We descended into the damp air of the cellar, the smell of stone and earth wrapping around us. Emily followed me, her hand steadying my arm. "Granny," she whispered. "What's going on?" I placed a finger to my lips. "Hush, my darling. You'll see." I led her to the corner, to the old biscuit tin hidden behind the boxes. My hands trembled as I pulled it free, not from weakness, but from the weight of the moment. I pressed it into her hands. "Take this," I whispered. "Do not open it here, not yet, but guard it with your life. Inside is the truth. The will and more." Emily's eyes widened. "Granny." Before she could say more, the sound of footsteps echoed on the stairs. "Eleanor, Mother," she called sweetly, her voice echoing down the stone walls. "Do you need help?" Emily stiffened, but I squeezed her hand. "Hide it," I whispered urgently. "Hide it now." She slipped the tin into her bag, just as Eleanor appeared at the bottom of the stairs, her face calm, her eyes sharp as glass. "What are you two doing down here?" she asked smoothly. "Just looking at some old things," I said, my voice frail. I wanted Emily to see. Eleanor's gaze flicked to Emily's bag, just for a second. But that second was enough. We returned upstairs, the air thick with unspoken battle. Eleanor made no move, no accusation, but her eyes followed Emily like a hawk circling prey. She knew Emily had something, though she could not prove it. And in her frustration, her greed boiled over. That night, when Emily stayed in the guest room, I heard Eleanor pacing again. Then a slam of a drawer, a muttered curse. She was unraveling. And when people unravel, my dears, that is when their true selves spill out for all to see. I lay awake, clutching my rosary, whispering prayers, because I knew the next move would be hers. She would not sleep, not until she tried again. And oh, how right I was. But that, my sweet ones, that is the moment where this story turns darker than ever. And if you are still with me, bless you, then stay close, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, do you believe evil always destroys itself? Or must we sometimes help it along? Because Eleanor was about to make her final desperate attempt. and it would be her undoing. Do you know what fear smells like, my dears? It isn't always blood or smoke. Sometimes it smells like desperation, a sour tang that lingers in the air when someone realizes the game is slipping from their hands. And in those days, after Emily took the tin, that is what filled the halls of my house. The thick, bitter scent of Eleanor's fear. She tried to hide it, oh yes. She smiled brighter than ever, cooked elaborate meals, even sang, while she moved through the kitchen. But her eyes betrayed her. Those sharp little glances at Emily's bag, the way her lips tightened whenever Emily walked into a room. She was watching, waiting, desperate to strike. I, of course, let her believe I was oblivious. I shuffled about with my cane, coughed into my handkerchief, muttered about my weak heart, and all the while I watched her unravel. You see, my dears, people like Eleanor cannot tolerate uncertainty. It gnaws at them. The thought that somewhere, hidden in Emily's bag, was the truth she could not destroy. Oh, it drove her mad. On the third night of Emily's visit, I heard the creak of her door, Eleanor slipping inside like a shadow. My heart pounded as I listened from my own room. Emily stirred, bless her, and I heard her voice, sharp and clear. What are you doing in here? Eleanor laughed softly, too softly. I thought you might need extra blankets. It's chilly tonight. Then why were you looking through my things? Emily demanded. Silence. Thick, heavy silence. I clutched the rosary at my bedside, praying Emily would not give her the tin. At last, Eleanor's voice came, honeyed but strained. I wasn't. You must have imagined it. The door closed. Footsteps retreated. But I knew. Eleanor would not stop there. No, the storm was only building. The next morning, the proof came. Emily sat at breakfast, her face pale, her eyes blazing. Granny, she whispered. I caught her. She was trying to go through my bag last night. Eleanor froze, her spoon halfway to her mouth. Emily, she said sweetly, you mustn't say such things. I was only checking on you. But Emily slammed her hand on the table. You're lying. My son walked in just then, rubbing sleep from his eyes, and the scene froze like a painting. Eleanor turned to him with tears brimming instantly. Ah, she was skilled at that trick. She's accusing me, she whimpered. I was only being kind. And my son, blind as ever, frowned at Emily. Enough, both of you. I won't hear this nonsense at breakfast. Emily opened her mouth to argue, but I touched her hand beneath the table. Not yet, my darling, not yet. Timing is everything. Later that day, when Eleanor went into town, I called Emily into the study. I showed her the recorder, the little device glowing with its captured secrets. We played back the whispers of the night. Eleanor poisoned the water. Emily's eyes widened, her face pale. Granny, this is enough to show Dad. I shook my head. Not yet. He will not believe us so easily. She has wrapped herself too tightly around his heart. We need more. We need her to reveal herself in a way he cannot deny. Emily frowned, then nodded. She understood, and so, together, we crafted a plan. That evening, over dinner, I sighed loudly. Emily, I said, before you go back to university, I want to give you something precious. A key. It opens the chest in the attic, where the most important papers are kept. I saw Eleanor stiffen, her fork pausing mid-air. The attic? She asked, her voice light but her eyes sharp. Yes, I said softly. Everything is there. My will, the deeds, everything. If anything happens to me, Emily must have them. I caught Emily's eye. She played her part well. She nodded eagerly. Of course, Granny. We finished dinner in silence, but I could almost hear Eleanor's mind turning like a machine. She would not let those papers stay in the attic. She would act, and soon. That night, I pretended to sleep again. The house was silent, save for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. Then, creak, the sound of footsteps. Up the stairs, to the attic. My heart thundered. Emily sat awake in her room, waiting as we had planned. Eleanor moved quickly, thinking herself clever, thinking herself unseen. But the recorder we had planted at the attic door captured everything. The scrape of the chest, the rattle of locks, and then her voice, low and urgent. "Where is it? Where is it? Damn her!" She tore through the chest, scattering papers, her frustration rising with each second. Finally she screamed, a sharp, furious cry. "She will not outsmart me. I will find it, even if it kills her." Ah, my dears, that was the moment. The mask ripped away, the true Eleanor revealed. In the morning, Emily and I showed my son. We played the recording. At first, his face was blank, disbelieving. But as Eleanor's voice filled the room, raw with venom, his expression crumbled. "No," he whispered. No, she wouldn't. But she had. And now, he could no longer deny it. Eleanor burst into the room just then, her eyes wild. She saw the recorder, heard her own voice, and for the first time she looked afraid. Truly afraid. "Mother," she gasped. "Please, you don't understand." But I rose from my chair, my body trembling, my voice strong. "No, Eleanor, I understand perfectly. You tried to burn my will. You poisoned my water. You sought to destroy everything I built. But you forgot one thing." Her eyes widened. "What?" I leaned forward, my gaze sharp as glass. "You forgot that I am not as weak as I look." Silence. Heavy, choking silence. My son stared at her, his face pale, his hands trembling. Emily stood beside me, her arm around my shoulders, her chin lifted proudly. And Eleanor looked like a cornered animal. But my dears, that was not the end. No, for when evil is exposed, it does not vanish quietly. It thrashes, it claws, it tries to drag others down with it. And Eleanor, oh, she was not finished yet. That night, she made one last desperate move, a move that could have cost us everything. And that, my sweet listeners, is where the tale darkens further. If you are still with me, bless your hearts. Then stay close, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, do you believe a woman like Eleanor deserves mercy or only justice? Because when she struck for the final time, there was no turning back. Do you know what happens when a cornered fox finds no escape, my dears? It bares its teeth, it lunges, it will risk everything in one final strike, because in its mind, the battle is already lost. Unless it takes the biggest gamble of its life. That night in my English house, Eleanor showed her true nature. No longer the sweet wife. No longer the caring daughter-in-law. No, she became the fox, snapping at shadows, desperate to bite. After my son heard the recording of her venom, the house turned heavy, suffocating. He could not look her in the eye, and for once, Eleanor did not try to win him back with tears. She paced instead, restless, muttering to herself, glancing at Emily and me with a hatred that burned like coals. Emily whispered to me in the study later, "Granny, she's dangerous. I don't think she'll stop." I nodded slowly. "She won't, darling, not until she believes she has destroyed me completely. That is the sickness of greed. It devours even when there is nothing left to gain." We slept uneasily that night. The grandfather clock struck midnight, its chimes echoing through the halls. I thought I heard whispers, but told myself it was only the wind. Then, a sound, a crackle, faint at first, then sharper, the unmistakable hiss of fire. My eyes flew open, smoke, thin threads curling under my bedroom door. My heart lurched. Eleanor. She had chosen the oldest weapon, the cruelest, fire. I threw myself from the bed, coughing, clutching the edge of my nightstand. My legs trembled, but I forced them forward. "Emily!" I screamed, my voice hoarse. "Emily, wake up!" She stumbled into the hallway, eyes wide with terror. Flames licked at the curtains at the far end, the wooden beams groaning as smoke thickened. And there, standing in the glow of the fire, Eleanor, a matchbox still clutched in her hand. Her face twisted in a grin that chilled my blood. "It ends tonight," she hissed. "If I can't have this house, if I can't silence you, then I'll burn it all." Emily rushed forward, but I grabbed her arm. "No, darling. Stay back." I knew the madness in Eleanor's eyes. She would not hesitate to harm her. The smoke clawed at my throat, my chest tightening, but I stood tall, leaning heavily on my cane. "Eleanor," I said, my voice steady, despite the fire raging around us. "Do you not see what you've become? You've lost. Not because of me, but because of the monster inside you. Even if these walls fall, the truth will rise from the ashes." She laughed, a broken, wild sound. "No one will believe you. They never do. You'll die in here, and your precious Emily will scatter like dust." But my dear Emily, brave girl, stepped forward then, her eyes fierce. "No, Eleanor, you won't destroy us. You've already destroyed yourself." And with that, she snatched the recorder from her pocket, the one still holding Eleanor's confession, the proof she could never erase. Emily held it high, her voice rising above the roar of the flames. "Even if this house burns, the truth is safe. We've already made copies. The world will know who you are." Eleanor froze. Her eyes darted to the device, her mask of triumph cracking into horror. "No, no," she screamed, lunging toward Emily. Time slowed in that moment, my dears. The fire's glow reflected in Eleanor's eyes. Emily's scream pierced the smoke, and I knew this was the moment fate had prepared me for. With every ounce of strength left in my frail body, I raised my cane and struck it hard across Eleanor's path. She stumbled, tripped, and crashed to the floor as flames crept closer. Emily pulled me back, coughing violently. "Granny, we have to go." We staggered down the stairs, heat singeing our skin, the house groaning as if ready to collapse. Behind us, Eleanor screamed. Not words now, only raw, furious cries, swallowed by the fire she had unleashed. My son burst in through the front door just as we reached the bottom. He had gone outside for air earlier, unable to bear the tension, and now his eyes widened in horror. "Mother, Emily!" He rushed forward, dragging us into the cool night air. We collapsed on the lawn, gasping, the flames devouring the windows behind us. The neighbors gathered, shouts filling the street, buckets of water useless against the inferno. And in the midst of it all, my son turned to me, tears streaking his smoke-stained face. "Mother," he whispered, "I'm so sorry. I didn't want to see." I took his trembling hand. "It is not too late, my boy. But you must face the truth now. You must choose her lies or our blood." And then, as if in answer, the roof caved in with a deafening crash. Eleanor's screams silenced at last. The fire had claimed her, as greed always claims its servants in the end. The house, my house, was gone. The walls that had heard my laughter, my sorrows, the steps of my children as they grew, all swallowed by the flames. Tears poured down my cheeks as I clutched Emily close. But do you know what, my dears? Though the fire took the house, it could not take the truth. For Emily, wise beyond her years, had hidden not just the recorder, but the copies of my will. In the safe of a trusted solicitor in town, Eleanor had burned nothing but her own soul. The days that followed were heavy with grief. I mourned the home I had tended for decades. But in my heart, I knew the greater victory had been won. Eleanor's name was ashes. My legacy, the real legacy, not just the bricks and mortar, lived on in Emily's courage, in the bond between grandmother and granddaughter that no flame could touch. And now, as I sit in a smaller house, the roses blooming once more outside my window, I tell you this story not for pity, but for remembrance. Remember, my dear listeners, evil often hides behind the sweetest smiles. It creeps into our homes, whispers into our ears, and convinces us that it belongs. But when the mask slips, when the fire rises, we must be ready to fight back, not with hate, but with truth, with love, with the strength of those who came before us. Eleanor thought she could silence me by burning my will, my house, even my life. But she forgot one thing. A grandmother's spirit does not burn so easily. It lingers, it speaks, it warns, and it protects. So, if you've stayed with me through this tale, bless your heart. Subscribe, share my story, and tell me in the comments. What would you have done, standing in my shoes, staring into the fire? Would you have shown mercy to Eleanor, or let the flames deliver their own justice? Because as I look back, I sometimes wonder, did I strike hard enough with that cane? Or did the fire simply take what was already cursed? Ah, but that, my dears, is a mystery the ashes alone can answer. Do you know what silence sounds like after a fire, my dears? It is not the soft hush of night, nor the peaceful quiet of morning. No, it is a hollow silence, sharp and echoing, like a church after the congregation has gone. That is the silence I heard when the flames were gone, when the crowd of neighbors had drifted back to their homes, when even the firemen stood with their helmets under their arms, shaking their heads. My house was gone, the walls that once echoed with my children's laughter, the stair that creaked on the fourth step, the attic that smelled of cedar and old books, all reduced to smoke and blackened ruin. I sat on the curb, wrapped in a blanket someone had draped over my shoulders, staring at the skeleton of the place I had called home for 50 years. My son stood beside me, his hand resting awkwardly on my shoulder. He wanted to comfort me. I could feel it, but shame held him back. For how can a man comfort his mother when he knows he chose blindness over her cries for so long? Emily, sweet Emily, never left my side. She knelt in front of me, her smoke-streaked face determined, her small hands gripping mine with strength that belied her years. "We'll be all right, Granny," she whispered. "We still have each other. That's what matters." And though my heart was breaking, her words planted a seed. She was right. The house was gone, yes, but the legacy was not. My will still existed. My story still burned in the recorder. And my blood, my true inheritance, lived on in Emily's courage. The days that followed blurred together. We stayed in a small inn on the edge of the village while arrangements were made. My son tried, he tried, to speak, to apologize. But every time the words caught in his throat, he would bring tea, offer to carry things, linger in the doorway, as if waiting for forgiveness to slip from my lips. But I could not give it yet. Forgiveness is not a key you hand to anyone who asks. It is earned. It is carved from truth. And my son had much carving to do. Eleanor, of course, was gone. The fire had claimed her, leaving nothing but ashes. Some whispered it was justice. Others whispered it was tragedy. I kept silent. Only God knows whether Eleanor's soul found mercy in those final screams. But I could not find it in my heart to mourn her. One evening, as the sun set behind the inn, painting the sky with strokes of orange and violet, Emily and I sat by the window. She leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. "Granny," she murmured, "are you sad because of the house? Or because of her?" I closed my eyes. Both, darling. The house was my past. And Eleanor, she was the shadow that crept into it. When the house burned, it felt as if my whole life went with it. But perhaps the fire also burned the shadow away. Emily nodded slowly, though I could see her young mind wrestling with it. "I hate her," she whispered suddenly, "for what she did to you, for what she tried to do to me. I hate her, Granny." I turned her chin gently so she looked at me. Her eyes were fierce, glittering with tears. "No, Emily, hate is another kind of fire. If you carry it, it will burn you from the inside, just as greed burned Eleanor. You must not let her live inside you that way. Promise me, darling. Promise me you'll choose love over hate." Her lips trembled, but at last she whispered, I promise. And in that moment, though I had lost my house, though my body ached with smoke and grief, I knew my legacy was safe. For what greater inheritance can a grandmother leave than the wisdom to choose light over darkness? But my dears, peace is never so simple, is it? Even as we tried to move forward, whispers crept through the village. Some said I had exaggerated, that Eleanor had been pushed too far. Others said I had driven her to madness, that perhaps I had lit the match myself to rid the family of her. Can you imagine? To survive fire, to lose your home, and still be accused of villainy. At first, I ignored them. But one morning, as Emily and I walked to the solicitor's office, a woman on the street hissed at me. "Witch!" she spat. "Burned her own house for the will." Emily gasped, stepping forward, but I held her back. I looked that woman in the eye, my voice low but steady. "Do you know what it is to fight for your family? To bleed? To lose? To be betrayed in your own kitchen? No. Then do not judge what you do not understand." She faltered then, turning away, but the sting remained. We reached the solicitor's office, and he welcomed us kindly. The copy of the will lay safe, untouched by Eleanor's schemes. "It is all intact, Mrs. Hargrave," he assured me. "Your wishes will be honoured." I let out a breath I did not realise I had been holding. The truth was safe. Eleanor's final act had failed. That night, back at the inn, I told Emily softly, "Do you see, darling? Paper can burn, houses can fall, but the truth always survives if we guard it well." She nodded, but then asked the question that pierced me deeper than the flames ever could. "Granny, if Dad had believed her instead of you, what would you have done?" I looked at her long and hard, and then I said, "Then I would have left. I would have left the house, the will, the name, everything. Because sometimes, Emily, the fight is not about what you win or lose. It is about who stands with you when the smoke clears." Her eyes filled with tears then, and she hugged me tightly. And in that moment, I knew, even had everything else been taken from me, as long as I had her, I had enough. But my dear listeners, do not think the story ends in tidy ribbons. No, life rarely grants such gifts, because in the quiet that followed, as we rebuilt and remembered, I began to sense something strange. Small things at first. A letter slipped under my door with no name. The faint smell of smoke in places it should not be. A photograph of Eleanor, untouched by fire, found in the ruins, though all else had burned. Whispers again, but not from the village this time. Whispers from the shadows of memory. Was it only my mind scarred by the fire? Or was it something more? I do not yet know. But one thing is certain. Eleanor may be gone, but her shadow still lingers in the corners of my story. And if you are still here with me, listening, bless your heart. Stay close, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Do you think Eleanor's spirit lingers in this world? Or was it only the fire that left its mark on me? Because sometimes, late at night, when the wind rattles the window of this new little house, I hear her laugh. Have you ever thought, my dears, that some fires do not end when the last ember dies? That some flames cling to you, invisible, smouldering in the corners of your mind, whispering in your ear even as you tell yourself it is only the wind? That is what I began to learn after the fire. Eleanor may have burned in body, but her presence was not so easily erased. The first time it happened was 1 week after the house was gone. Emily was sleeping soundly beside me in the inn room. She had begged to share, too frightened to be alone. The candle had burned low, and I lay awake, staring at the shadows on the ceiling. That was when I heard it. A soft crackle, like paper catching flame. I sat up sharply, clutching my chest. No fire, no smoke, only silence. But then, laughter, low, broken, familiar. Eleanor's laughter. I froze, my blood turning cold. It came from the corner, near the wardrobe. A whisper slithered through the air. You think it's over, old woman? I blinked and it was gone. Emily stirred beside me, murmuring in her sleep, and I lay back down, telling myself it was only exhaustion, only grief. But deep down I knew the shadow was not finished with me. In the days that followed, little things kept happening. I would find matchsticks on the floor, though none of us had struck them. The smell of smoke would drift through the inn corridor, only to vanish when I searched for its source. And once, oh my dears, once I found the recorder, the very device that had saved us, lying on the table with its red light blinking, playing back, though I had not touched it. And on the tape, not Eleanor's venom, not my own voice, but static, and through it, faintly, her scream from the fire. Emily noticed my trembling hands, my sleepless eyes. "Granny," she whispered one evening, "you're scaring me. What's happening?" I wanted to protect her. I wanted to tell her it was nothing, but I could not lie, not to her. "Eleanor may be gone," I said softly. But sometimes, when a soul is twisted with greed and hate, it clings. It refuses to let go. Perhaps she lingers, Emily. Or perhaps she lives only in my mind. Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want her near us. I don't want her to hurt you anymore." I cupped her face, forcing a smile. "She cannot hurt me now. She cannot hurt us. Remember what I told you. The truth always survives, even against shadows." But in my own heart, doubt coiled like a serpent. We moved at last into a smaller house, a cottage with ivy creeping up its stone walls and roses blooming in the garden. At first, it felt peaceful, a new beginning. Emily filled it with her laughter, and for a while, I allowed myself to believe the darkness had passed. But then, one night I awoke to find the roses outside my window smouldering, just the tips of the petals, blackened as if touched by flame, though no fire had been lit, and carved into the soil beneath them was a single word: Will. I stumbled back, clutching my cane, my breath ragged. Had someone written it? Was it a cruel prank? Or was it Eleanor reaching from beyond, reminding me of what she tried to steal? The next morning, Emily saw the word and paled. "Granny," she whispered, maybe she isn't gone." I said nothing, for I had no answer. My son visited then, carrying guilt like a shadow on his face. He brought flowers, money, promises of rebuilding. But behind his eyes, I saw the same doubt that haunted me. Perhaps he, too, heard whispers in the night. Perhaps Eleanor's ghost did not linger with me alone. One evening, as we sat in the cottage parlour, he broke down. "Mother," he sobbed, "sometimes I hear her, in the dark, calling my name, telling me I failed her." I stared at him, my heart sinking. "You did fail her," I said quietly. "You failed by letting her consume you. But now you must choose. Let her consume you still, or let her burn away." He covered his face with his hands, trembling. "I don't know if I can." Emily, bless her brave soul, stood tall then. "You can, Dad, but you have to stand with Granny now. You have to stop pretending the past didn't happen." He looked at her, and in that moment, I saw hope flicker. Small, fragile, but alive. And yet, the shadows did not leave us. Not entirely. Some nights, the cottage creaked, as if footsteps moved along the hall. Some nights, the air grew heavy with the smell of smoke. And once, when I looked into the mirror, I thought I saw her. Eleanor standing behind me, her eyes burning, her lips curled in that hateful grin. I turned, and the room was empty. But the mirror still showed the faintest outline of her shadow. So I ask you now, my dear listeners, what do you think? Do you believe Eleanor's spirit lingers, clinging to the ruins of her greed? Or do you think it is only the scars of my memory, etched so deeply that even in peace, I cannot escape her? Whatever the truth may be, I know this: my story is not finished. The fire took my house, but it lit something else. A warning, a lesson, a legacy, and I will keep telling it again and again, so that no shadow, no whisper, no ghost can silence me. If you are still here with me, bless your heart. Subscribe, share this story, and tell me in the comments, have you ever felt the presence of someone who was gone? Did they return in dreams, in whispers, in the flicker of a candle, or was it only your heart refusing to let go? Because sometimes, when the night is quiet, I hear Eleanor still, and I wonder, did the fire really consume her, or did it set her free? Do you know, my dears, that the heaviest ghosts are not always those who walk the halls in sheets of white? Sometimes they live inside us, in the cracks of memory, in the silence between our thoughts, in the shadows that move when no one else sees them. That is the ghost I wrestle with now, Eleanor. Whether she lingers as spirit or scar, I cannot yet tell. The cottage should have felt like safety. Its walls are thick, its garden full of roses, its windows wide and welcoming. And yet, each night when I blow out the lamp, I feel her. Not always close, not always loud, but there, in the stillness. Emily tries to brighten the rooms. She brings flowers, laughter, even painted the walls a soft cream color to chase away the gloom. And for her sake, I smile. But deep inside, I know the truth. Light only casts sharper shadows. It began again with the mirror. One morning, brushing my thinning hair, I saw something behind me, faint, like smoke. At first, I thought it was only my imagination, but then the outline sharpened. A woman, her head tilted, her lips stretched in that cruel, familiar smile. Eleanor. I turned at once, my heart hammering. Nothing, empty air. But when I looked back into the mirror, she was still there. Not clear, not solid, only the suggestion of her. I slammed the mirror shut, covering it with a cloth, and whispered a prayer. That evening, Emily noticed the cloth. Granny, why are you hiding the mirror? I forced a smile. Old mirrors bring old memories, and I've had enough of those. But she wasn't fooled. Her sharp young eyes narrowed. It's her, isn't it? She whispered. You saw her. I could not lie. I nodded slowly, and Emily's hand tightened around mine. Then we'll fight her together, she said fiercely. Even if she's a ghost. Ah, bless that girl. So brave, so loyal. But I worry, my dears. I worry Eleanor's shadow might reach for her too. One night, I dreamt of fire, flames licking the walls, smoke filling my lungs. I woke gasping, drenched in sweat, and there, on the floor beside my bed, lay a burnt scrap of paper, its edges curled, its surface blackened, but one word remained, copy. I stared at it trembling. How could it be? The solicitor had the copy of my will. No paper like this belonged in my house. I burned it at once, scattering the ashes into the night, but the question gnawed at me. Was it Eleanor's doing, or was my mind conjuring tricks, desperate to keep her alive? My son visited again, his face drawn, his voice soft. Mother, he said, I still hear her. At night, she calls my name. She tells me I failed her. Sometimes I think I see her in my dreams, standing in the fire, reaching for me. I gripped his hands. She is gone, I told him firmly. Gone in body, gone in spirit. What you hear is your guilt, nothing more. But even as I spoke, I doubted my own words. Emily, meanwhile, grew restless. She began keeping a diary, scribbling late into the night. When I asked, she said, I have to write it down, Granny. Otherwise, she wins. Otherwise, she keeps living in us. One afternoon, when Emily was out, I peeked into the diary. The pages chilled me to the bone. She had drawn flames, eyes watching from shadows. Words scrawled again and again. She isn't gone. She's waiting. I closed it quickly, my hands shaking. My sweet Emily. Was she being haunted too? Or was she simply absorbing my own fears? The truth, my dears, is a slippery thing. Sometimes I think Eleanor is here, clawing at the edges of our lives. Sometimes I think it is only my mind, old and weary, refusing to let go of the war we fought. But whether ghost or memory, the effect is the same. She lingers. And perhaps that is her final victory. Not the burning of my house, not the theft of my will, but the seed of doubt she planted. A seed that grows even now. Still, I fight. Each night before sleep, I whisper aloud, Eleanor, you will not have me. You will not have Emily. Whatever shadow you leave behind, it ends with me. But sometimes, when the candle gutters low, I hear her laugh in the distance, and I wonder, is she mocking me from beyond? Or is it only the echo of my own fear? Tell me, my dear listeners, what do you believe? Is it possible for a soul like Eleanor's to linger after death, bound by greed and hatred? Or is she gone, and it is I who keep her alive by remembering? Because the older I grow, the thinner the veil feels, and some nights I fear she is only waiting for me to cross that veil, so she can greet me with fire on the other side. If you are still with me, bless your heart. Subscribe, share my story, and tell me in the comments, do you think death ends all evil? Or does some evil follow us, clinging until we face it once more in the dark? That night, I could not sleep. The storm outside rattled the windows. The wind howled down the chimney, and every creak of the old house made me startle. I lit the lamp, determined to stay awake. But even the golden glow could not chase away the dread that crept into my bones. I sat in my armchair, my shawl wrapped tight, listening. At first, it was only the storm. Then, beneath it, I heard something else, a soft scratching, like nails against wood. I froze. It came again, closer this time, from the corridor outside my room. Emily? I called softly, my voice trembling. No answer. I rose, each step heavy, and opened the door. The corridor stretched long and dark, lit only by the occasional flash of lightning. And there, halfway down, stood a figure, pale, still, watching. For a heartbeat, I thought it was Emily, but then the lightning flared, and I saw her face, scorched, twisted, the flesh blackened and peeling, eyes glinting like embers. Eleanor, I gasped, clutching the doorframe. The figure raised a hand, charred fingers pointing at me. Her lips moved, and though no sound came, I understood the words. It should have been you. The storm boomed. The light vanished, and when it returned, she was gone. I stumbled back into my room, heart racing, and locked the door. My hands shook so violently, I could barely light another candle. Was it real? Or had my weary mind conjured her from guilt and fear? The next morning, Emily noticed my pale face, the tremor in my hands. You saw her again, didn't you? She whispered. I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. She stood in the corridor, burned, broken, but alive in some awful way. Emily's jaw tightened. Then we can't keep running. We have to face her. Whatever she is. Her courage astonished me, but it also terrified me. This was my battle, not hers. Yet Eleanor had a way of binding us all into her darkness. That night, Emily insisted on staying in my room. We sat side by side, the lamp burning low. If she comes, Emily said, holding my hand, we'll see her together. Then we'll know she's real. The hours crept by, thick with silence. Midnight came. The storm had passed, leaving the air heavy and still. For a long while, nothing stirred. I almost began to hope. Then it began again. The scratching. Slow, deliberate. Not at the door this time, but at the window. Emily's grip tightened on mine. We turned. The curtains fluttered though the window was shut, and behind the glass, a face pressed close, blackened. Grinning, Emily gasped. I screamed. The lamp flickered violently, then went out. In the dark, we heard it. Laughter. Low. Rasping. Broken. The laughter of a woman who believed she had already won. Emily scrambled for the matches, her hands shaking. When the flame finally caught, the window was empty. She turned to me, her face pale, but her eyes fierce. You see, I saw her too. It isn't just you, Granny. She's here. Her words should have comforted me, but instead, dread pulled deeper in my chest. If Emily saw her too, then Eleanor was no longer just my ghost. She had crossed into Emily's world as well. The days that followed grew heavier. Doors slammed when no one touched them. Objects moved. A chair dragged across the floor. A teacup shattered on its own. At night, the smell of smoke filled the halls. Acrid and choking. One morning, we found a message scrawled in ash across the wall. Burn with me. Emily tried to scrub it away, her young hands raw from the effort, but the words clung stubbornly, like they had been carved into the wall itself. I felt despair then, my dears. Deep and cold, I had hidden my will, kept my secrets, fought her at every turn. But now, even from the grave, she clawed her way back, demanding my destruction. And yet, I am old, yes, but I am not beaten. I told Emily we would not leave the house. Not yet. If Eleanor wanted to be faced, then faced she would be. So tonight, as I sit here telling you this, we wait. The candles are lit, the door's locked. Emily sits beside me, her diary open, her pen ready to capture what happens. The air is thick with smoke, though no fire burns. The floorboards creak with footsteps, though no one walks. And even now, as I whisper into the silence, I hear it. That laughter, faint, circling, closing in. If you are listening, stay with me. Do not leave me now, because something is coming. I feel it. And when it does, I will need you, all of you, your prayers, your voices, your belief. Subscribe, share, and comment if you hear me, if you believe me. Because tonight, in this house, the veil is thin, and Eleanor is reaching through. The lamp flickers. Emily gasps. The window cracks. She is here. The glass in the window trembled as though gripped by invisible hands. Emily clutched my arm so tightly her nails dug into my skin. I wanted to protect her, to shield her from what was coming, but I knew this was not a storm I could stand before alone. The cracks spread across the pane like a spider's web. Smoke seeped through the fractures, black and choking, and with it came that voice. Not a whisper this time, not faint or distant, clear, mocking. Eleanor, you kept it from me, the voice rasped. You thought you'd win, but I will take it all. Emily screamed, leave us alone! Her voice, so young, so fierce, echoed through the room. The curtains caught flame without spark or match. Fire raced up the fabric, orange tongues licking the ceiling. I dragged Emily toward the door, but it slammed shut with a force that rattled the walls. We were trapped. Through the smoke, I saw her, not in flesh, not alive, but something worse. A figure born of ash and fury, her form broken and burnt, her eyes like coals. Eleanor. She stood in the center of the room, her charred mouth twisting into a smile that made my blood run cold. You think you've outwitted me, she hissed. You think paper and ink can protect you. I'll burn your secrets. I'll burn you. I gathered every shred of strength left in me and stood tall, though my knees shook. You cannot touch me anymore, Eleanor. You cannot touch my blood, my house, or my will. You are gone, gone. Her laughter cracked like timber in the flames. Gone, she sneered. I am the fire, and I will consume you until nothing remains. The walls glowed red, heat pulsing against our skin. Emily coughed, tears streaming from her eyes. I pulled her close, whispering, hold on to me, no matter what happens. Hold on. But then something remarkable happened. Amid the smoke and flame, Emily broke free of my arms and stepped forward. Her small frame looked fragile, but her voice carried a power I had never heard before. You can't have her, Emily cried. You can't have my granny. She is stronger than you. She is loved, and you will never understand that. Eleanor's figure flickered, her grin faltering. The flames dimmed for the briefest moment. I realized then what I had never dared to believe. Eleanor fed on fear, on silence, on the power we gave her by trembling in her shadow. Emily's courage was pushing her back. I joined my voice with hers. You are nothing in life but greed and bitterness, Eleanor. And now you are less than nothing in death. You cannot win, not while love remains in this house. The shadow screamed, a sound like shattering glass and tearing metal, a sound that clawed at the soul. The fire surged higher, then collapsed inward, drawing itself back into her form. She writhed, burning, shrinking, until she was only a smear of smoke pressed against the wall. Her final words slithered through the silence. I'll wait. On the other side. Then, darkness. The flames vanished. The room was whole again, though the stench of smoke lingered, heavy and vile. Emily collapsed into my arms, sobbing, but alive. I stroked her hair, my own tears spilling freely. We did it, I whispered, though my heart trembled. Had we truly banished her, or only driven her deeper into the cracks of the world, waiting to rise again? That night, neither of us slept. We sat together until dawn, watching the first light break across the garden. The sun felt like a blessing, a shield against the night's horrors. And yet, even as its warmth touched my face, I could not shake Eleanor's words. I'll wait. On the other side. Perhaps she meant death. Perhaps she meant the moment I crossed the veil myself. And if so, what then? Will she stand waiting in the fire, arms open to drag me down? I do not know, my dears. But I know this. I will not face her meekly. Not now, not ever. If she waits, then I too will wait. With courage, with love, with the voices of those who believe in me. Yes, you, listening now. So stay with me. Subscribe. Share my story. Leave your words in the comments, for they strengthen me. Each voice, each prayer, is a thread of light that keeps the dark at bay. And when the day comes that I step through that veil, I will not step alone. The morning after the fire, that wasn't, Emily and I moved through the house like ghosts ourselves. Every creak of the floorboards made us flinch. Every draught of air carried the memory of smoke. Yet the walls stood untouched. The curtains hung unburnt. The windows unbroken. To any visitor, it would look as though nothing had happened. But we knew. Oh, we knew. Emily refused to leave my side. She shadowed me as I made tea, as I tended to the roses, even as I sat with my knitting. I don't want her to come back when you're alone, she whispered. I tried to reassure her, but truth be told, I clung to her presence just as much. The memory of Eleanor's charred grin haunted me. I half expected to see it reflected in the kettle's shine, or staring from the corner of the room. My son visited a few days later. He looked worn, his face haggard. I had another dream, he confessed, his voice trembling. She stood at the end of my bed. She said you've stolen everything from her. I gripped his hands. Listen to me. They are only dreams. She is gone. Do you understand? She cannot hurt us anymore. But his eyes told me he wasn't convinced. And when he left, I felt the weight of his fear pressing on my heart. Eleanor was like a stain, fading perhaps, but never entirely erased. Emily, ever brave, began to fill the house with little acts of defiance. She lit candles in every room, saying each flame was a light she can't put out. She filled jars with fresh lavender and rosemary, whispering that they would keep the shadows away. I let her, whether it was superstition or strength. It made the rooms feel alive again, yet not all was peace. One evening, as the dusk settled soft and grey, I found Emily in the hallway, staring at the wall. What is it, child? I asked. She pointed. At first I saw nothing. Then, as the light shifted, I noticed it. Faint scorch marks, curling shapes like fingers reaching upward. They hadn't been there the day before. Don't touch it, I warned, pulling her back. The sight chilled me, not because of what was there, but because of what it meant. Eleanor had not been banished, only weakened. That night, I dreamed of the will again. Not the hidden copy, safe in the solicitor's hands, but the one Eleanor tried to burn. I dreamed of her holding the ashes, her mouth open wide, swallowing them whole. When she looked up at me, her eyes glowed like molten iron, and she said, "Paper cannot save you." I woke gasping, clutching the bedsheets. The room was cold, though the hearth still glowed faintly, and on my nightstand lay a single curl of burnt paper. Emily found me sitting there, trembling. She took one look and whispered, "She's coming back, isn't she?" I could not answer. Days blurred into nights. Some were quiet, almost peaceful. Others throbbed with unease. Once, I heard footsteps in the attic, though no one ever went there. Another time, Emily swore she saw a woman's shape in the garden, standing among the roses at midnight. We tried to tell ourselves it was only imagination, only echoes of fear, but deep inside, we both knew Eleanor's hold was not entirely broken, and perhaps it never would be. Still, we refused to let her rule our lives. I told Emily, "She may linger in the corners, but this house is ours. Our laughter will drown her whispers. Our love will dim her shadows. So we live. We carry on. We bake bread. We tend the roses. We fill the rooms with warmth. And when the nights grow long and the air turns heavy with smoke, we hold each other tight and remind ourselves we are not alone. But sometimes, when the wind howls down the chimney and the mirror catches me unaware, I see her again, just for a heartbeat. Charred lips, ember eyes, staring, waiting, and I remember her last words. I'll wait, on the other side. I do not fear death, my dears, but I fear what waits beyond it. If you've stayed with me through this tale, I thank you from the depths of my heart. Do not forget me. Subscribe, share, and write to me in the comments. Tell me, do you believe a spirit so twisted can truly be laid to rest? Or will Eleanor wait for me, as she promised, in the fire on the far shore? Your voices keep me strong. Your belief keeps the shadows from swallowing me whole. Stay with me, because the story may not be over. My dears, you've walked with me through every shadow, every whisper, every cruel flicker of flame. And now I must tell you of the end. The night Eleanor came for me one final time. The night I faced her not with trembling fear, but with every ounce of strength left in these old bones. It began quietly, too quietly, a stillness that wrapped the house like a shroud. Even the clocks seemed hushed, their ticking softer, almost reluctant. Emily sensed it too. She pressed close to me at supper, barely touching her food. "Something's wrong," she whispered. "She's coming." I wanted to deny it, to soothe her heart, but I could not lie. I felt it in my marrow. Eleanor had not finished with us. That night, we prepared. Emily lit candles in every window, their flames defiant against the dark. I placed the will, the hidden copy from the solicitor, returned to me at my request, on the table. If it was the source of Eleanor's rage, then let it be present. Let her see it. Let her know she had failed. The air thickened as midnight drew near. A strange heat crept through the walls, though the hearth was cold. The candles guttered, their flames bowing as if under a heavy breath. Then came the smell, acrid, choking, unmistakable, smoke. Emily clutched my hand. "She's here." The lamps flickered. The walls groaned, and then, from the corner of the room, the shadows peeled back like rotting wallpaper. She emerged. Eleanor, no longer faint, no longer a half glimpse. Whole, terrible, a woman-shaped inferno, her skin blistered, her hair a halo of ash, her eyes burning with hatred. She stepped forward, and with each step, the floorboards blackened, charred beneath her feet. "You think you've won," she hissed, her voice layered, half human, half something far worse. "But you have only delayed me. Tonight, You burn. Emily tried to stand tall, though her knees shook. We're not afraid of you anymore, she cried. Eleanor laughed, a sound that rattled the glass in the windows. Child, I don't need your fear. I need your bloodline ended. I need her destroyed. Her charred hand shot out, pointing at me. The candles flared violently, then went out. Darkness swallowed us whole, but I would not cower. Not anymore. I reached for Emily, pulling her close, and I raised my voice. Strong, steady, unbroken. Eleanor, I shouted into the void. You will not have me. You will not have Emily. You are nothing but ash and memory. And tonight, you end. The will on the table stirred, pages fluttering though no wind blew. Eleanor's eyes snapped to it, her grin stretching wide. Paper cannot save you, she snarled. She lunged forward, her hand blazing, ready to set it alight. But before she could touch it, Emily darted forward. Brave, foolish, beloved child. She snatched the will, held it high, and cried, This isn't just paper. This is proof that you lost. Proof that love beat you. Eleanor shrieked, her form twisting, flames roaring higher. She struck out, but I stepped between them, shielding Emily with my body. I felt the heat sear my skin, but I did not flinch. You lost, Eleanor, I said firmly, my voice cutting through the roar. You lost the day you chose hatred over love. And now, we set you free. With that, Emily hurled the will into the fire that suddenly roared to life in the hearth. For a heartbeat, Eleanor's eyes widened. Shock, disbelief. Then the flames consumed the paper, and with it, her shadow. She screamed. Oh, how she screamed. A sound of rage, of agony, of something being torn apart. Her body fractured, cracked like burning timber, light spilling from the breaks. Then, with one final shattering cry, she exploded into ash that scattered across the room and vanished into nothing. Silence fell. The air cleared. The smell of smoke lifted. And for the first time in years, the house felt truly still. Emily collapsed into my arms, sobbing with relief. I held her, rocking gently, whispering, It's over, my darling. It's over. And yet, even now I wonder, did we banish her or only release her to the place she threatened? The other side, where someday I must go too. But if she waits there, then let her wait. I will not go trembling. I will go with love in my heart, with Emily's laughter in my ears, and with all of you beside me, my dear listeners. So here ends my story. A story of greed and fire, of wills and shadows, of love that would not bend. Eleanor tried to burn my legacy, but in the end, she could not touch the truth. Love endures where hatred crumbles. If you have stayed with me through this long, dark journey, bless your soul. Subscribe to my tale, share it with others, and leave me your thoughts. Tell me, do you believe she is truly gone, or does she wait in the ashes of the beyond? Either way, know this. I am not afraid anymore, for I am loved, and love, my dears, burns brighter than any fire.